Welcome to the latest episode of Rallen's Rant. My guest today is Ollie Ollerton. Ollie is a former Special Forces soldier and has also written 2 books called Breakpoint and Battle Ready, along with a fictional piece called Scar Tissue. So Ollie, thanks a million for taking time out to come on the show, and how are you keeping today?
Yeah, good. Thanks, Richie, and thanks for having me on the show. So yeah, I'm doing really good today, as I am every day. So yeah, that's it. That's yeah, all good this end.
Good to hear. Good to hear. And usually when I get a guest on, I go into depth about their childhood, but today I don't want to go too deep into it. But one of the things I'm always intrigued, especially with people with your backgrounds and kind of adventurous life stories, so to speak. Like when you think back to your early days, 6, 7, 8, I know there's obviously a big moment when you were 10 years old, but say before that, when you were growing up, you were kind of oblivious to what was ahead of you and what you were going to become as a human being, so to speak. Was there any person, was there any, famous person that you gravitated towards? Was there ever something that interested you at that age? Or, as I said, was it, say, someone in the family, a brother, a relation that kind of you gravitated towards and used kind of as inspiration in how you'd act at that early age?
Yeah, to be quite honest, mate, in the question lies the problem, because I had that real traumatic incident at 10. Anything before 10 is really sketchy for me. I can't remember much at all. And that's because of that traumatic incident. It's almost like my life began at 10 as opposed to, a life before the incident. So, it's a tough one for me to really, to pinpoint anything around that time, because, there's a period before I was 10, then the period after I was 10 was pretty much mayhem. So I don't think I was too wrapped up in my own world to have any sort of mentors or any. But my brother's always been an inspiration to me, and I think I always looked up to my brother. Well, I don't think, I know I did. He's 18 months older than me, and yeah, he's always inspired me. He's done very well, and he's a great guy.
Good to hear. Well, I know it's a story that it's been recycled in your mind and in most of your interviews, and as you refer to it there, the incident. And there's a lot of listeners who'll be listening to this first time and wouldn't be aware of what happened. And even I know in your latest interviews or even books, you talk about how you've only recently come to terms with what happened, and you've had to kind of evaluate it and really dig deep into your inner soul and inner mind to kind of realize what effect it had on you. But just to give some of the listeners who haven't heard it before, like, talk us through exactly what happened and the immediate effects it had on you when you were at that age.
Yeah, okay. Well, I'll talk through the incident. And I was 10 years old. It was Burton-on-Trent, which is in the Midlands, where I grew up. And it was summer holidays. Knock on the door. Brother's best mate was there asking if we wanted to go swimming. And my mum was absolutely thrilled to get us out of the house, get us out of her hair, and packed us up with a towel and swimming trunks, and off we went. And then as we got to the bridge that went over the River Trent, we saw something amazing in front of us, amazing for a 10-year-old boy anyway, and that was the circus was setting up in town. So that walk turned into a very fast-paced run. Before we knew it, we were at the big top. And we went to the first person we saw and just said, "Hey, can we have a look around?" And you've got to imagine 1980 was no health and safety. And there we were inside the big top, and there was elephants. There was all like your standard kind of circus animals, all on chains and everything. And I was kind of drawn to the other side of the marquee where there was a split in the canvas, which was the door. And the light was kind of just shining through the crack. And I separated from my brother and his best mate, and before I knew it, I was pulling open the doorway, and the sun hit me straight in the eyes, blurred my vision. When my vision cleared, there was something that was even more amazing than the circus, and that was a baby chimp. And, I was those that sort of know, I was actually infatuated with Tarzan at that age. And for me, seeing that chimp in front of me, it was almost like a little piece of Hollywood. And it was cheetah, and I was drawn to it. I was brought up with cats and dogs, but there was a chimp straight in front of me, so I was compelled to go into this sort of open area, which was enclosed with tents and trailers and all kinds of stuff. Before I know it, I'm over this chimp. I'm 10 years old, so I'm not a hell of a lot bigger than this baby chimp. And all of a sudden, it looked up, and it sounds weird, but we connected, and it's like a surreal moment. It was unbelievable. All of a sudden, the chimp goes down, and it starts picking food from the floor and starts passing it to me, and I'm like, look, I don't want to eat that, but this is an amazing moment. I didn't want to break the moment. So I was going through the motions, chucking the food over my shoulder. It all seemed like it was going on for a lifetime, but it's probably only a few seconds. And that moment, that serenity was broken like a fighter jet cutting through the sky as I heard this roar, this fierce roar. And it immediately I looked up and I could see something moving underneath the trailer beyond the chimp, the baby chimp. And that movement then turned into what was clearly a very, very big chimp, which was either mummy or daddy, probably about 50 kilograms. Well, I didn't get a chance to weigh it, believe me, but it was big. It was big. And it was making its way to me at Mach 10. This was all happening really quickly, but it seemed like it was almost, motion picture sort of slow. And then just at the moment, I thought about, I need to move. I was like a deer in the headlights. This thing pounced, and it, all of a sudden the blue sky turned to black, and this thing pinned me to the floor. And then it was, then it went about me just thrashing the living shit out of me. And, it was like a drummer in a rock band sat on top of my chest, just going mental. The first fist in my chest just absolutely winded me, and then it just, as a massive barrage of fists coming down, and then it started to try and bite me. I was just in survival mode, and but I knew at that point this attack, very quickly I knew that I was going to, if I didn't do something, I was going to die, and it was that fight or flight moment, and it wasn't something I thought about, but I had to do something, and I managed to pluck up the courage to take the fight to the chimp, and managed to dislodge it slightly. It gave me a few inches to get my knee up to my chest, and I kicked it off. It then fell to the floor, and that gave me a few seconds. Managed to scurry back, and I was then sat there, and this thing was on the final sort of charge, the final attack. And as it just before got to me, it was caught by a chain, and it was covered in blood, and it was my blood. I managed to get to my feet. I was a right mess, and the whole place erupted. All the circus workers came out. My arm was a proper mess where it torn chunks out my arm, and it wasn't a pretty sight. And then the story goes on, and really, for those that have read the book and my books, I caught gangrene in my arm, almost lost my arm, and yada yada yada. So, but the thing is, the reason I tell that story is because it was such a defining moment of my life, especially in hindsight, looking back. And childhood trauma is it has such a damaging effect on anyone that goes through it. But the big thing for me, and the reason why my first book was called Breakpoint, the reason why my business is called Breakpoint, is really because of an ethos and a theory. And that is that in life, you have to be prepared to step into the short-term discomfort for any long-term gain. Short-term discomfort for me on that day was actually taking the fight to the chimp as a 10-year-old kid, knowing full well that chimp, it's going to up the ante for that chimp, and it would retaliate. But the long-term gain for me was the fact that I wanted to live that day, and I did. And that is really the ethos for everything Breakpoint's about. It's about when we want to do anything in life. It's not, I'm not suggesting anyone goes to a circus and finds a chimp to fight with. But what I'm saying is, when you want to change, when you want to develop, when you want to do anything, we're not wired to take the hard route. We're wired to avoid stress. We're wired to avoid any kind of danger. And that, if we don't face it head on, can lead to a very limited and boring life. So really, it's really about the small stuff. It's really about setting goals. It's really about pushing through that discomfort of changing negative habits and starting to achieve more in life.
Yeah. And to touch on that, I know you mentioned there, say in your book, Breakpoint, and you mentioned as well that short-term discomfort for the long-term gain. When you reached, and I'm sure, the 7 or 8 years that followed that was something that was traumatic, and rightfully so. I could only imagine what you went through. When you reach 18, most 18-year-olds, I'd know anyway, would still be in school. They would be preparing to go to college. They'd maybe go away for a year. You decided to join the Royal Marine Commandos, and you ended up touring in Northern Ireland and then also in Iraq. Like, was that something that kind of was spurred on from the incident at age 10, where you had that experience of short-term, discomfort that led to long-term gain? It made you mentally tougher. It enabled you to realize that you had that switch in you where you could dig deeper than you thought you could. And did that kind of spur you on to do something that in many people's eyes would be deemed brave and commendable, but ultimately risky in the shape of joining the Marines?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And some people have asked in the past, do you think you'd have still joined the forces if you hadn't have been attacked by the chimp? Which I can't answer that question. I don't know. But I do feel that really did prepare me. I mean, my life it's quite interesting, right? On that same year, that was 1980. That was exactly the same year that I watched the SAS storm the Iranian embassy in London. And, that almost, when I saw that sowed a seed. It was in this very same year I got attacked by the chimp. I only just realized that a few months ago. And that really sowed the seed for me of the military it turned me to the military. It was actually at 14 I made that decision. I had, after that attack, 10 years old, my life went, I was crazy. I was void of consequence. I was absolutely on a path of just pushing my limits beyond belief. And then at 14, I went, I'm joining the Royal Marines. And at the time I thought nothing of that. But when I look at like my son, he didn't know what he wanted to do until about a year ago, and he's 19 now. And it was a very it was a very passionate and very strong, fast decision that I was going to join the Royal Marines at 14. So really, from that moment on, it's my mum really did offer me some support. I'd been in trouble with the police and all kinds of destructive behaviour that was leading me to a very down the wrong road. And it was my mum that really put some energy and focus into really directing my energy to join the military. So I sometimes question. I didn't seem like there was anything in the world that I wanted to do other than that. And I do honestly believe that is in direct correlation to that attack at 10 years old. I think it was something that, I wanted. The thing is, I look back now and it's easy to say in hindsight, but I wanted to be at war. I was looking for a war, and I wanted to be on the front line in war every day. And that's what I was chasing. And, to cut a long story short, I found that war, and I was very dissatisfied, with the physical war that was out there, Northern Ireland, Iraq, and everything. And it took me a long time to realise that the war wasn't external; it was internal. And I had to deal with the internal, and it wasn't an external fix that was gonna make me right. It wasn't till till years and years later, till 2011, and that was 2011 that I really started to realize that happiness, fulfillment, everything is not external. It's something that's internal. And that was a switch that changed in me and changed my life.
Yeah, no, that's a fair point. And I've had guests on in the past, whether it's policemen, former Marines who did join the Marines in the United States, and as I said, many other relatable type of kind of military careers. But one thing you mentioned there was hindsight, and everything obviously is clearer looking back on it rather than actually at the time. But I suppose this is a double question, so to speak. Like, was there a moment when you joined the Marines at such an early age where you fully felt overwhelmed? And then to follow up on that, and I ask this quite a lot, is do you feel that maybe if you were a bit more experienced, say in your mid-20s, and you joined the Marines then, do you think you maybe would have gotten more or maybe even less out of your experience being in the military?
Yeah, to be honest, I don't think that whatever I'd have done, I don't think it was the the fact of the matter is, when I look back now, and I've only just like you stated before, I've only just dealt with that incident recently. But really, I don't think anything that I'd have found would have satisfied me, because I wasn't balanced. I wasn't, there was, it was an imbalance within me. So regardless of what I'd have achieved or done, I wouldn't have felt satisfied, and I didn't. Even when I, pushed forward, I couldn't find what I was looking for in the Royal Marines. So then I decided to go for Special Forces. Got to the Special Forces, and then it was the same there. And I just failed to feel like I'd achieved actually anything. Although it was massive to join the Special Forces at 23, 24 years old. But I just started thinking to myself, what is wrong with me? Why can't I feel like I've achieved anything? Why can't I feel satisfied? Why can't I feel fulfilled? So I don't believe, even if it was later, that would have happened. I think really for me is the way I look at it, right, is, again, hindsight. Wonderful thing, but never won any wars. But the thing for me is we all chase a dream based on an image. All right. And for me, I was in love with the perception of being a Royal Marine Commander, being a soldier on the front line, being in war, this sort of heroic lifestyle. I fell in love with that image. And when I actually got there, the feeling was very different to the image. And this is where we do make mistakes in life. People are looking for the perfect picture. You know what I mean? Whether that's not whether that's their marriage, their relationships, their jobs, the perfect house, this, that, and the other. And we kind of don't really give full praise. It's really about a feeling and not the image. And we don't appreciate that. That's why so many people get to where they think that they're supposed to be, and then they realize they don't actually feel that great about what they've achieved. Because we're chasing this image. We're always chasing this image, and really it should be. It's a feeling that we're looking to. We need to feel like we've achieved something. We need to feel in the right place. We feel like we've found our purpose. I didn't find that till I went out to Southeast Asia and ended up working to bust kids out of child prostitution and slavery over there, which was the most fulfilling and humbling thing I've ever done in my life. And that's finally when I found my purpose.
And I suppose even just to nearly stay on that point you were saying there about ultimately you found your purpose on in your life, and you were chasing this idea or this dream you had in the military. And like in the book Battle Ready, you talked about, say, when you were joining the Marines, you had some people close to you who questioned the decision. And like everyone who listens to this, whether it's a job decision, sporting decision, a relationship decision, there's always opinions saying, oh yeah, do that, don't do that. And there'll always be people filled with doubts. And one of the questions that someone wanted to ask, and also I wanted to ask as well, is like, what is the best way to harness, say, the negative energy or the negative feedback you ultimately will encounter, whether it's, as I said, trying something new, doing a physical challenge, just changing your routine, and how do you actually use that to aid you and to give you, power ahead of the challenge or the change?
I'll tell you what, I think it's just the way you frame it, really. For me, and people take it to, different ways. People doubting me is some of the best encouragement I've ever had. And really, that is the way I frame it. I almost want people, I almost want people to tell me I can't do something, I can't achieve something, which really gives me the grit and determination to prove them wrong. Now, whether that's right or wrong, some people might say, well, that's the wrong kind of vibration, that's the wrong kind of attitude. I don't really care, because it gets me to where I want to be. So, other people look at that. Self-doubt can kill more dreams than anything. And where that self-doubt can be either self-created or inherited from someone else. You've got to understand, when people doubt you, it's really because they doubt themselves. And, you should not allow that self-doubt to ruin your belief in yourself, and that's something that I've had along my path all the way throughout my career. people saying, you can't do it, you couldn't do that. I can remember a teacher when I was 14 years old in school, and I wasn't paying attention in maths. I had no interest in, I got to a certain point in school and I was just like, this has got no, I don't see the point of what I'm doing. And I had no enthusiasm or passion to be there. And that wasn't because I was thick. That was just because I just wasn't the academic type. But I can always remember, teachers saying, will you pay attention? I was like, I'm not interested. And he was like, and I stated, I can remember standing up at 14 years old in my maths class and going, I don't really care about this. I'm joining the Royal Marines. And he just laughed and he went, you haven't got the discipline to join the Royal Marines. And it was people like that really helped me on my journey to achieve what I wanted to achieve. And I find it really damaging when, some people, and it can be close family members. Sometimes it's not just the case that they're doubting themselves. They're just trying to protect the person that they love because they don't want to see them fail. But, at the end of the day, you can't wrap people in cotton wool. You've got to let people go out there. Failure is really, you've got failure as well. I'm going to keep on failing for the rest of my life, because I learned so much from that. And it also tells me that I'm achieving. When I stop failing, it means that I'm taking it easy. And really, success to me is a series of failures, and you learn so much from that. So, I'm sick of people out there. There's so many people doing it, faking perfection. I'm going to keep on failing for the rest of my life. So people have got to really understand that when people doubt you, you've got to sort of allow yourself to believe that is them doubt, that the problem lies with them, not with you, and you should still follow your dreams and don't let someone else's reflection of your abilities damage your progress to where you want to be.
Yeah, no, and I completely agree where you're coming from there, Ollie. And I do think in society, or whether it's, as I said, immediate family, friends, I'd see it a lot where failure is something that isn't encouraged. And I'm not saying like people should be telling everyone, oh no, go, it's fine, just fail all the time, it's fine. But as you said, it can be a crucial learning tool. And whether it's me, whether it's yourself, whether it's anyone listening to this podcast, we've all experienced it in some way along the line. And I was just wondering, is there any moment in your life, whether it was, recently, whether it was quite a while back, like, do you see a moment in your life and think that was my biggest failure? And also, if you do have a point where you can associate that as your biggest failure, would you go back and try and change it if you had the chance? Or do you view it as a crucial moment in your life that actually helped you gain perspective and ultimately improve?
Yeah, I mean, I've got one particular moment that I would fit into that that kind of area, and that was really around about 2011. It's a big year for me, that 2011, because that was the year that I'd invested everything to go out to Southeast Asia to work on these operations to rescue these kids. I wasn't getting paid for it. I then stumbled across something that was amazing, and that was the power of helping other people, which I think in this day and age, a lot of people don't understand the wealth or the investment in doing exactly that. Everyone's fighting for the most social media followers. Everyone's fighting for, even in a close-knit team, sporting team or a corporate organization, people are, fighting against each other to get the most recognition. But really for me, that was an amazing event that happened. However, it came to, it fell down overnight. It caused a political incident. We had to escape out of Thailand. And then when I was living in Australia. I came back to Australia at that point, and my drinking just got out of control. I was going in a flat spin of absolute despair. My life was going nowhere. I just didn't know where to turn. Suffering with mental health issues. And although, I felt like an absolute failure. I look back, it was almost a massive point of reflection for me. I'd almost been going through my life at Mach 10, bouncing from thing to thing, all these external fixes to war zones, here, there, everywhere, just, partying. It was like a mental lifestyle. I was either working in a war zone or a party animal when I was home, because I was living every day like it was its last. And then it came to a crashing halt when I came back from, got out of Thailand and got back to Australia. And I did absolutely feel like an amazing, absolute monumental failure. Now, would I go back and change that? I would not. I would not change that. I would not. The only thing that I would have. The thing is with me, I won't sit there and regret and say, because everything that's happened up to now has made me who I am today, and I'm the happiest I've ever been. Now, the who I am today is because that path has been carved through some good things, and also through bad situations and good. So I can't sort of sit there going, I wish it was different. I couldn't say that, because where I am today is due to the path I've trodden. But one thing I will say is I did make life hard for myself by not being able to talk to anyone, seeing that sort of opening up emotionally as some kind of weakness. It's not just opening up and showing some kind of weakness. It's the fact that our ego doesn't want people. Everyone is so invested in creating the perception of happiness that they really do. That the real person who they are become the byproducts of that perception. This person that we all do it, and we all do this. We all create this person that we looks great from the outside looking in, and we invest so much energy into that. And really, we're quite prepared to compromise our own emotional state just to make this image look great from the outside looking in. And that was me, really. I was scared to actually tell people that story, that this perception that I created wasn't the truth. And I think that's a very foolish, or not foolish. It's a very hard route to take once you're like that, especially when you're suffering. So there was a big smile on my face to the external world. There was but behind that smile, it was like it was not the truth. It was absolutely not the truth. And so the biggest mistake for me, the biggest failing for me, is the fact that I couldn't open up and talk to anyone.
It's quite relatable. Like, one of the last guests I had on was an opioid addiction and even a social media addiction kind of counselor. And like, whether it's young people, whether it's people in their 50s or 60s, one of the main battles I think we have at the moment, and as you mentioned there, is just the projection at the moment and the power, say, social media has. It's obviously a magnificent tool for, as I said, marketing, for businesses, for creating content, letting fans stay in touch with what you are. But then there's also the other side to it, where you, as you related your own self personally there, as you have to project this image and kind of just keep things condensed beneath the surface and kind of live a second life on the outside. And like, I suppose there's definitely going to be people listening, and I've even had people messaging before, whether it was previous podcasts on the topic. Like, what you reckon are some of the best bits of advice you could give to someone who, I'm not saying we're in the same shoes as you with regards to the lifestyle or the tendency towards alcohol, but people who may be struggling, or people who feel like they've lost their purpose or lost their true identity. Like, would you have any advice to them, whether they're young, old, or whatever age?
Yeah, I think I've got loads of advice for them, and loads of advice really based on the mistakes that I've made. But one thing I'd say is, first of all, you've got a lot of people are embarrassed to sort of admit they've got some issues going on. And that really, they feel embarrassed because a lot of people say, well, I haven't been to a war zone. I haven't, nothing major has happened to me. You've got to stop comparing. You've got to really understand that if your baseline on life is consistently below par, okay, you consistently feel sort of below the baseline, then you have some kind of issues that you need to deal with. There's no checklist. There's no, you have had to have gone to a war zone, done this, done that. The military doesn't own PTSD as well. So really it's about dropping all that and feeling, embarrassed that you're having any kind of issue. What will happen as well, when you get into that sort of area of not feeling great, you feel like you're in a repeat cycle of absolutely pointless nothings, which I was at one point in my life, that what you'll tend to do is you'll start comparing with other people that have got these great, fantastic lives. And Instagram is a perfect example for that. So you'll sit there, then you start to become, I want my life to be like someone else. You start dreaming of being this other person. And really, you've got to stop comparing, because the difference between you and them is too much of a bridge to gap. What you have to do is be 100% honest with who you are and where you are right now. Identify any issues that are affecting where you are today. Like for me, it was being honest with myself that drinking was not drinking and partying. It was the opposite of what I promote, and that is short-term comfort. Okay, but that leads to long-term pain, as far as I'm concerned. I had to start evaluating the things, the habits, the routines, everything that I was doing in my life. Was it productive mentally and to my sort of career path and everything? And that's when I was really honest with myself and going, "You drinking too much. This is not helping you." And it's being honest with myself, drinking, drugs, everything. And it was, and from there, I was able to create a solid platform, a solid foundation to work from. But if you can't be honest with yourself and you can't be true and just appreciate where you are, and you compare to, your life to someone else, you're never going to get anywhere above the baseline of your current situation.
Yeah. So I think there's a lot of relatable advice in there. And as you were saying, the comparing culture we're in, as in a lot of your experience are different to my experience, but maybe the lessons learned, that the emotions we both kind of experience through our own struggles would tend to be somewhat the same. And I think there were points that you kind of touched on there, which is obviously important. And one of the questions I got just about kind of what you've done recently, and a big part of you've done some TV shows, as I said, you've written books, and the two main books you've written that are kind of about your learnings are entitled Breakpoint and Battle Ready. And for say some of the listeners who aren't familiar with your work, are somewhat hopefully intrigued after listening to this, when you think of the words Breakpoint and the content that was in that book, and Battle Ready and the content was in that book, what are kind of the main key topics you talk about?
Yeah, I mean, Breakpoint is really that book was a biography. It really created the understanding of who I am, of what I've been through. I see both books, Battle Ready and Breakpoint, as, although it was an autobiography, it's very much I see it as a self-development type book anyway, because there's a lot of tips and things that I went through and a lot of advice. But really, it's the first one is the theory of Breakpoint, about short-term discomfort for long-term gain, and really the second one is that moment in 2011 when I came crashing down, and it was the process and that I put myself into in 2014, when I knew I needed to make some changes. I needed to really start investing in myself, understanding that the external happiness wasn't it wasn't out there. And it was, I put myself into self-isolation for 2 months, and that was really what the content of Battle Ready is. It's the process. It's almost like a boot camp of mind, body, and nutrition, and it's processes that I still do to this day. I did this morning, I did yesterday, and I'll do tomorrow. So it's really Battle Ready is really a call to action for people to how they can ask themselves some questions about their life, evaluate where they're at, and really to start making some positive choices for the future. And really, it's about, you've got to understand, with everything you want to achieve, everything you want to change, you've got to have a why. If you don't have a why, you'll never have a how. So about, if you want to give up alcohol, you've got to have a reason why you want to do that. You can't just say, I want to give up alcohol. You've got to have a reason. That's about setting goals, creating a pathway for that. It's understanding as well. A big part of my book is understanding how we're wired as humans. Because a lot of people, we're just born into this skin as kids. And then everyone thinks they're experts. If a mechanic doesn't know how to fix a car, motorbike, or anything until he knows how it works, and we're no different.
Yeah, that was a good point. My local mechanic may disagree with that, but I know I completely get where you're getting from. Yeah. And one of the things I wanted to ask you, Ollie, and as I said, another person also was intrigued about the topic as well. So basically, this week on Friday, a bit of inspiration came from yourself and a few other YouTube videos that I watched, in which I'm doing an 100 kilometer walk within 24-hour periods, mainly because of ultimately to raise money for charity, but ultimately the idea of mind over matter. And as you said in multiple other interviews, like being in a state where your mind can be stronger than your will, stronger than your body. And a lot of people over, say, the lockdown, and whether you look at your Instagram feeds or even turn on the news, a lot of these physical kind of challenges have been put down, a lot of these markers. A lot of people will use this as a chance to, as you said, maybe give up alcohol, give up smoke, and maybe tailor back a drug addiction, whatever it may be. Like, one of the questions I got was, obviously a key part of that is, you know, mind over matter, mind over your body. But is there ever a point, and maybe this would be more suited to a physical challenge, like say a marathon, is there ever a point where your mind is simply too strong for your body and you need to be able to somewhat tailor that to this kind of moment where your mind can recognize when the body's about to fail? Because I've heard of some David Goggins crazy stuff where broken bones have happened and he's continued through marathons and runs and all that. But do you think there's a balancing act between that, where you condition your mind to be strong enough, but ultimately for it to be able to
commit too much?
Yeah.
No, I can relate a lot to that, because I mean, I did 2 selections. Those again that have read the book, you know, I did 2 selections and for Special Forces, almost back to back. And the second one I went through, I pretty much broke my ankle on the early days on selection, and it got to a point where they said to me, you know, you're going to fail this, and if you fail, it was my second time through. If you fail the second time, you will never be able to come back. So they said they wanted to give me a medical withdrawal for that, and which would have meant that I could have come back for a third time, and I refused to do that. And it almost turned like into they almost looked at me like I was stupid and said, you're going to fail and it's such a waste and blah, blah, blah. But for me, it was about, I just thought to myself, it's now or never. And I have to try and get through this pain. And I did exactly that. You know, the next day I strapped it up. I took loads of proof and strapped it up with strapping tape. And then I cracked on with Special Forces Selection. I was in tears the next day. It was hideous, and I managed to obviously get through and make the times only just, and then the ankle started getting a little bit stronger as time went on, but that initial pain was hideous. And then so there was that occasion for me, and then also when I sort of, you know, after that period, 2011, when I started getting myself back on track, and then I became addicted, absolutely addicted to physical exercise, and I was working out 3 times, almost 4 times a day, and my body, although it looked aesthetically pleasing, it was in rag. It was an absolute rag. And I was definitely one of those people, you know, I was definitely overtraining. It wasn't doing my body any good whatsoever. I looked great. My body did, my face didn't, because I'd lost so much weight in my face and everything. But, you know, I was so addicted to it, and I wasn't doing myself any favors whatsoever. And it was like my body was just crying to just stop and rest. And, you know, for me, it was just like in my mind, I was like, I wanted more. And I became addicted to exercise, and also addicted to the attention I was getting for being, you know, I was ripped at the time, absolutely ripped, which is, you know, I was addicted to people saying, oh, look how great you look, look how fit you look. And really it was me that was suffering. You know, again, it was me trying to really putting everything into trying to look great when I really didn't feel great behind however it looked. So, you know, I can totally relate to that, you know, because you know, once you go over the edge of that, I mean, the other side of that is that you know, the mind will give up way before the body, generally speaking. But yeah, there is also the problem where you can then overtrain, and you're not doing your body any good whatsoever. And rest is extremely important. Also, I used to think it was great saying, "Hey, I only sleep 4 hours a night because I'm such a legend," and I used to think I was
same here, yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, I only need 4 hours sleep, and that's ridiculous. I now know that is ridiculous, because sleep is your best weapon that you've got. It's when the body sort of recalibrates, really starts to re-energize. And sleep is absolutely so important. And that for me, again, was, when it came to drinking, I realized that really all the time I was drinking and alcohol was quite a big part of my life. You don't really sleep. And I didn't really sleep for years and years and years. And the strain that puts on your body and your mind is ridiculous. So, I can absolutely relate to that. And I think people need to really understand that, rest is also, I consider like rest is also, you need to have rest in your, scheduled into your week regularly. You need to have a definite routine where rest is part of that training process.
Yeah. Well said. And Ollie, like nowadays, and it just takes a quick look at your Instagram that you're still very active and all that. Like, obviously, as you said, you've gone through every up and down a fitness fanatic can go through. Like, what would your general week look like now from an exercise point of view? Because I think a lot of people now, with the lockdowns all over Europe, they've realised how important exercise and fitness may be in any way, shape, or form. But for yourself, like, what would the go-to be, whether it's gym work, whether it's running, whether it's a mix of both, a CrossFit type workout, like what's your go-to these days?
Yeah, well, for me, it's I almost treat my working week is all, my exercise program is also my working week. Now, I'm a big believer in your greatest project is you. That has to be your focus. So for me, I mean, it's so important. I get up at 5 o'clock every day in the week. This is. So let's look at this morning. This is my perfect day, really. I get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, come downstairs. I then have a very nutritious drink. Now, you've got to understand that when you're asleep, you're in a fasted state for 6 to 8 hours. A lot of people do the worst thing you can do to your body and come down and stick caffeine straight into your body. And that is, something I learned that is, I like coffee, but, you've got to put something nutritious into your body. So I come downstairs and I won't go through the cocktail because it's quite long-winded, but simply having warm water and squeezed lemon into the water is like what your body is dying for. So many nutrients in that. And then I go into meditation. Meditation for me is my focused attention at my intention. So really it's about me focusing on my short-term, medium-term, long-term goals. And that really helps me start to really focus. Our heads have got 70,000 to 100,000 thoughts going around each day. And it's really important that we choose to align with the things that we do want. Otherwise, we end up with a load of stuff we don't. And then once I've done that, I usually do that 20 to 25 minutes, which is a guided meditation. There's loads of them on YouTube. You can find them anywhere for everything from abundance to goal setting to relation, whatever it is, you can find it on YouTube. Really good resources. Once I've done that, I then try and do I then go and do a run. I usually take the dog out, go for a run, and then when I come back, I'm then back in the house for 7 o'clock, and then I'm at my desk. And the reason, people think about fitness and they think, well, fitness is going to the gym or fitness is going for a run. Fitness for me is that meditation as well. It's mental fitness. I think, and that's what my every day should look like, that I focus on my mind, body, and nutrition every day. And that is the 360-degree approach. And that's we've got a fitness app, me and Foxy from the SAS 2 Days Win show. I've got a fitness app that is called Battle Ready 360. So that is my routine every day. Now, once I've done that, it doesn't matter what happens to me every day. If I have a crap day, every day for me has been an absolute success. And that's what I do from Monday to Friday. On Saturday and the weekend in general, I won't get up. I'll just get up when I want. So a lie-in for me is probably 7:30. but I won't have any strict agenda on the Saturday. On the Sunday, and then what I'll do, I'll go out for a long walk on the hills with the dog, probably Saturday. On Sunday, I will then go for a bit of a longer run in the morning. And then it starts on the Monday again. And that is my routine. And that is, for me, I really notice the effects it has on my mental state when I don't do it. So it's really important that I maintain. Sometimes if I miss it for a few days, it really does affect my mental state. It's really important for me that I carry on that is part of my everyday or every week routine.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I even think to lockdown, the days where I've felt down in the dumps have been the days where I've just sat at home feeling sorry for myself and not gone out for at least a walk or something somewhat stimulating the brain or even the body. So I'd be completely agreeable with that. And I suppose last thing I'd just like to ask, just before we get into the quickfire round to wrap it up, is obviously you're busy writing books, as I said, even the scar tissue fiction piece that is somewhat, kind of by your own experiences and also elements of fiction in it as well. Like, are you one of these type of people that plan what's going to happen in the next year, 5 years? Like, what do you see yourself getting involved in? Because you've got so many projects, as I said, from fitness to TV to books to your own well-being to public speaking. Like, do you have any projects up and coming, or is it very much what you're doing at the moment is what you want to keep doing and even just get better at?
Yeah, I've made a promise to my team. I wouldn't say I've made a promise to my team. It's my team that have told me that I'm not allowed to come up with any new ideas for the next 6 months. So, exactly. So really, I mean, it's about breakpoint, which is, that's taken a bit of a knock this year because it's quite front facing. So the corporate training side of stuff and the public courses. But that will, next year we've still got to crack on back on with the, with breakpoint. Then the Battle Ready 360 app at the moment, which is something that we've got a 5-year plan for, but it's really making that bigger and better and really taking that globally as far as we can, and that's happening. I mean, we've just come up with the Battle Box, which is basically a gym in a box, which is then aligns with the app with the workouts, and we've got an online platform being built where people will be able to basically log on and stream their workouts anywhere in the world, live workouts. So that really for me is that. And then I've got my own company, which is 00 Global, and that is all my books and my motivational talks. So really for me it's about just continuing that path and really start to really spread out and make those things established as far and wide as possible. But the bottom line is, with everything I do, my mission is to inspire as many people as possible. And my mission statement is to create globally identified brands recognized for the positive growth and development of others. So, that is my mission. That is my focus. And anything that comes under that umbrella, I'll be taking part in. But really, the TV stuff is really that's really been a tool for me to create exposure and has given me the ability to be a voice.
Yeah, no, and as I've been shown to myself, like a lot of the stuff you are doing, it's very kind of profitable. It's very kind of inspirational. It's also very beneficial for individuals. So, as I say to all my listeners or anyone I speak to about you, there will be a link. I'll pop it in below this podcast. I'll also attach it to all the social media outlets. So, and I've seen your website. It pretty much covers absolutely everything that you do, whether, as I said, it's public speaking, fitness work, or your books. So if anyone is interested in that work, I will leave that. And lastly, Ollie, just the uncomfortable part of the podcast is just the quick fire round. And I know how busy you are, so we'll just bang out a few questions and then I can let you enjoy your evening.
Short-term discomfort, long-term gain.
Precisely. Okay, we'll start off with an easy one. Your favorite film of all time?
That's not easy.
Yeah.
Oh God, it's a hard one for me, but Heat.
Brilliant film. Absolutely love it.
Yeah, Heat.
Yeah. The strangest thing you've seen in combat?
Strangest thing I've seen in combat. Tripping over a room full of cannabis while on a going into a locked container on a ship which was full of drugs, and all the lads falling over all the drugs within that room. It was comical, mate. It was absolutely comical, and I'm pretty sure
that sounds like something.
The smell in there that was so pungent. It hit us straight in the face, and next thing, everyone's giggling. It was fun. It was funny.
Something out of a Seth Rogen film. So, your favorite sporting moment of your life and why? It can be personal, or else it can be a famous sporting team or individual.
I'll take that personal one, and that was when I was at school and I won the 1500 meters at school, and that was the last time I walked away from there and never went back to school after that.
Go out in the high, so to speak.
Yeah. No, it was interesting because I got in a lot of trouble as a kid at school, and I was elected as like the school captain, team captain, and the school teachers rejected that because I'd been in trouble with the police. And then I went to sports day and I absolutely smashed it, rinsed everyone, and then just didn't even stay around to get the medals or the trophies, and walked away from school and never came back. Proudest moment.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah. I'd like to have been in the crowd seeing that. Win the race and just keep running straight out the front gate.
So would I.
Your least favourite exercise or machine in the gym?
My least favourite exercise has got to be burpees. My worst bit of kit that I've ever bought is an assault bike.
Yeah, there's demons trapped inside the assault bike, I'm pretty sure.
I'll tell you what, people talk about how do they slow life down because it's going too fast. Sit yourself on an assault bike.
Yeah, good shout. And this was by one of the listeners, who's obviously a follower of yourself. Are Labradors the best type of dog? And if yes, why?
Labradors are the best type of dog. I never knew that I could get so flipping, be so in love with an animal as much as my dog Murphy. And I don't know, he's just so loyal. He's just the best thing ever. He's just like so loyal, always there, always got a smile on his face, and he does smile. I've never known a dog that smiles, but he does smile. And it's just, and he looks great.
A solid companion.
Yeah.
And lastly, another one here. What is your favourite song, and is there any story as to why it is your favourite?
God, I've got loads of favourite songs, but this is a bit of a weird one, and people will be surprised at this. Oh, God. I can't even remember the name of it. Hold on. Ruda Silva, Touch Me.
Okay.
Do you know that one?
Any reason for it?
I just love it. I think it's just such a brilliant song. I think it was actually in a film called Layer Cake as well. Or could have been.
Great film.
But it was the moment in my life. It was like, I love like dance music. Always, I have loved dance music. And that is one song that, is timeless for me.
Good stuff. And last but not least, the most difficult quickfire by most guests' estimation. Describe yourself in 3 words.
Stubborn, determined, and focused.
Yeah, that sounds like you've prepped that quite well.
I just know myself. Sometimes that's a good thing and a bad thing.
Okay. Well, listen, Ollie, thanks a million for your honesty. I'm sure a lot of the listeners, especially the first-time listeners, will be very much engaged with the stories you've had to tell, and also the experiences and kind of the learnings you've elaborated on today. So I want to thank you for that. It's always very, very enjoyable to listen to someone be quite thorough and frank with everything they talk about. So I appreciate that. And as I said, any of the listeners who are interested in what you do, as I said, a quick Google, a YouTube. If you want to click on the link below this, I'll link your website. And as I said, you're very busy at the moment, so there's a huge amount of content attached to your name at the moment that's very accessible. So I'll make sure to post all that information as well, Ollie. But
yeah, no, thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, man. And I'd also like to say to everyone, though, that my story sounds overwhelming, but I just want people to understand that they have such amazing power as human beings. And it's hard to sometimes understand what we're capable of. But all you got to do is start pushing and start embracing that short-term discomfort.
Well said. Well, I'll start that on my 100k walk on Friday. But
good luck with that, mate. And listen, thanks for having me on your podcast. It's amazing. So really, really thankful for that.
No worries, Ollie. Listen, stay safe and all the best. Okay.
Cheers, buddy. Take care.
Thanks.